Big night in New Jersey tomorrow night. Welcome back in. Zach Gelb Show, Fox Sports 920, the Jersey. Time right now in our Princeton Orthopedic Associates studios, 4:15. You're going to have a celebration of a man's life who played a big part in New Jersey, and that's Dr. John McMullen, as they're going to honor him in the inaugural Devils Ring of Honor. And now joining us is someone clearly still associated with the Devils organization and will be, and that's Ken Daneyko, the three-time Stanley Cup champion, is kind enough to give us a few minutes right now on the Zach Gelb Show. Kenny, appreciate the time. Thanks for a few minutes, and how are you, my friend?
Well, I'm doing good. Pleasure to be with you, Zach. And, yeah, tomorrow's going to be a special night, and I think I commend the new Devils ownership and Devils management for starting this Ring of Honor and keeping the legacy and the history of this team and the great players. And tomorrow night, the guy that got it all started, John McMullen, Dr. John McMullen, who brought the team to New Jersey, is rightfully so the first honoree going into that ring. And we're pretty excited to have his family there, and his wife Jackie, who I'm very close with as well, and Peter, his son, and Kathy and Johnny, his other kids, and it's just going to be a special night to get this Ring of Honor going, and a lot of good or great alumni coming back. You know, Claude Lemieux and Randy McKay and Stefan Riche. So I think it's going to be a great night all around for the fans, especially included.
Yeah, it's going to be a great night, and in order to start that Ring of Honor, you have to first start off with the man that's responsible for bringing the team to New Jersey. And as you know, that's Dr. John McMullen, like we're talking about. You mentioned that relationship. Sometimes there's players that don't have great relationships with their owner, but you know that you had a very good relationship with the doctor. Just why was that? And tell me a little bit about him.
Well, I go as far as he was like a second father to me. I mean, he took a liking to me at a very early age, and I was his original pick, or shall I say second pick, but original in the year he brought the team to New Jersey in 1982. And he was just such a humble guy and a caring guy. It wasn't just about on the ice. He was so good to your families off the ice, and me in particular. A bond of just developed. I was a guy that was proud to be a Devil, proud to represent the state of New Jersey, and Dr. McMullen was the guy that brought professional sports, professional hockey to New Jersey. So I know he took a lot of pride in that, and we're very grateful to him and how the game in itself has grown because of that. And a lot of kids playing today and how youth hockey's grown, people should be give a little debt of gratitude to Dr. McMullen for sure, because I think because of the Devils and being a pro hockey team here and the way youth hockey's grown, I can't believe it in the last 30, 35 years, the time that I've been here, where I think in the early 80s it went from 6 rinks in the state to, I believe, well over 60 now. So it's just great to see all the kids playing and our sport grow in general. And a lot of that's because of Dr. Mack. And for me, he was a guy that, no matter what, I went through a lot of ups and downs on off the ice, as people know. We won't get too into it, but I could do no wrong with Dr. Mack because he was a loyal guy. He felt that I represented the team in the colors and cared and wanted to be part of something, building something in the championship teams. And we went through a lot of lean years there in the early 80s, but we're able to build quite a franchise. And just his vision to bring Lou Lamoriello, a relatively unknown back in 1987, the summer of 1987, to resurrect the organization, to bring it structure and discipline, and the rest is history, and the 3 championships and everything. But Dr. Mack was just there was just a special bond. You don't see it a lot with owners and players, the way Dr. Mack treated his guys and their families. And for me, like I said, it just developed over the years. I was here a long time, and he was a guy that was a very special man and very special to me for sure.
You had Lou, and you had so many great players. We know Marty and all the other great players on that team, and just such a team that was just so exceptional and clearly winning 3 cups. And you guys had to overcome some adversity before you got that first cup. Just when you finally clinched that Stanley Cup final and won the first cup, what do you remember about that? And just tell me a little bit about the formula and those group of guys and what made that team so successful for so many years?
Well, I mean, every time you win, we feel very fortunate, like I said, to win 3 times. But the first one, obviously, the first thing that comes out is character, man. We had a lot of characters and character. It was, people talk a lot about the craziness of the '86 Mets and everything. Well, believe it or not, as disciplined and structured as Lou Lamoriello was, and he was the architect and put us together. Lou will be the first to tell you he had including myself, we had a cast of characters, but the common denominator, they like to have fun, they like to do things together, and it went a long way. We had a special bond, but the common denominator was we wanted to win. We wanted to be a team that could make this state proud. Everybody wore that, like I said, that logo on their heart at the time, the Devils logo, and we were big, we were tough, we could play the game any way you wanted them. And from the crash line of Holik, McKay, and Peluso to the Stefan Richer who's going to be there tomorrow, to Claude Lemieux, one of the biggest big-time players, playoff players, probably the National Hockey League has seen. And then our back end, obviously led by Scott Stevens, Scott Niedermayer, and the likes, and Bruce Driver. We just had a team that didn't believe we could lose. And it was all put together, obviously, by a young goaltender as well. You can't win without great goaltending, and maybe the greatest who ever played the game in Martin Brodeur. We didn't know that at the time, but he went on to have a pretty illustrious career. And so it was just a great group, a great bond of guys, and a character team. But we had a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun on and off the ice, and that went a long way as well to us being successful because we cared for each other.
Ken Daneyko with us right now. You take a current look at this current Devils team, and they got a long ways to go. Do you see the success coming for the Devils? How about this current Devils team, Dana?
Well, look, it's a work in progress for sure, and got off to a great start, 9-3-3, and I think maybe at times we all get a little too excited. They made some good acquisitions. And look, we needed to go in a different direction, in my opinion, as far as we were getting a little bit stale, and all good things come to an end, and then that doesn't take anything away from Lou's legacy, because without Lou, we're not the New Jersey Devils, or Dr. McMullen for that fact. Those are probably the 2 most important people in this organization, and I include players in that. So, but at times you need change. You need a different philosophy, a different feel, and I think the new management, Ray Shero and Coach Hines, who I respect and like a whole lot. He's a young, innovative coach who has the pulse of this team. And last year we probably overachieved a little bit with what you'd call a retooling, rebuilding year, and we took a step forward. And then after a good start this year, maybe a couple of steps back, and that's part of it. You'd like to see it all go straightforward and uphill, but unfortunately it's such a competitively balanced league that it's going to take time. But I feel this team's in the right direction. I feel they are more talented than they were in the past, and they're getting there. Is there a player or two away to be a real contender? Probably, but having said that, to start the new year, I've loved they've gotten back some structure, some passion, some heart, and won a couple of games, so I'm hoping it's in the right direction, and maybe they can get themselves back in a playoff hunt, because there's a half season left, and everybody rests on it, including fans. You win 5 in a row and you're the greatest, or 2 in a row and you're great, and if you lose 3 or 6 or 7 like the Devils did for one stretch, then people get down. But that's sports, that's fans, and that's part of it. That's part of the growth, and we all get frustrated. But I like the direction, the new management, and certainly the new ownership, who I've really enjoyed working with as well, what they're doing with the team, and we'll continue to build forward. But they're fun, and they're a group that when they work hard, they can be successful, and they've shown that the last couple of nights against 2 good teams in the Boston Bruins and Carolina, who they've beaten in the new year here.
Yeah, you're seeing what you're just saying right now currently with the Flyers. They just came off a 10-game win streak, and then they lose 7 out of their last 8 games, as Ken Daneyko is with us right now. Since I bring up the Flyers, just because of the way this Metropolitan Division has been, which has been so competitive, with those top 5 teams. You take a look at their defense, a player like Provorov has just been playing out of his mind only at the age of 19. Did you get a chance? How much have you been able to see of Provorov, and what are your thoughts on the young defenseman?
Yeah, he's got a bright future, and he can be a top defenseman in this league, an all-around defenseman. Already logs a lot of minutes for such a young guy. And I used a similar growth with the Damon Severson here, who's only 21. Came on with a bang, took a few steps back last year as far as the progression because of injury, probably. And then it takes a little time for defensemen to develop. Many people say, and I think it's true, the most responsibility, the toughest position to develop. So it's not always going to be smooth sailing. You're going to go through some ups and downs. I'm sure Provorov will be no different. But he's got all the tools. The way the game's gone, he's a puck-moving defenseman, very smart, and can log a lot of minutes. And I look at guys, like I said, from the Devils, you win from the back end out. People can say the game's gotten faster and more offensive, and definitely it has, and more skilled, and I love it, love the direction of the game, but you got to have guys at the back end that can produce, and you got to develop within your own organization, and that takes time, and that takes patience and good drafting, and Provorov's a good one. I feel Damon Severson in Jersey, sky's the limit for him as well, that he's a guy that can be a real stud on the back end. So you look at Columbus, while a lot of their success, Werenski, the 8th overall pick, nobody could have thought the impact he's had on a team that has just been remarkable this year and going for a tie of the most consecutive wins in the National Hockey League history tonight in Washington. So the Metropolitan Division has been a beast. I don't think anybody could have expected that. It looks like 5 Metropolitan teams will make the playoffs, but we'll see. There's still 40-plus games left, or 41 games left to half a season. You get on a streak, win 5, you can get yourself right back in it. That's when the Devils are open. You lose 5 in a row, and all of a sudden you drop drastically. So I still think there's some surprises we'll see here. It's not going to be just what's gone on in the first 41 games. There's going to be some teams that take a step back. There'll be teams that take a step forward, and we'll see what transpires. But that Metropolitan Division has been awfully tough for sure, and it makes it more tough for a team like New Jersey that's playing catch-up to get back in the hunt, and they're just hoping they can win their share of games. They have a lot of home games down the stretch here, or down in the second half, shall I say, and a lot of Metropolitan Division games, so you got to beat them, the proverbial 4-point games.
And right now, you take a look at the Devils, they're only 6 points out of an 8th seed. So if they're going to go on one of these runs and have a chance to compete for that 8th spot in the conference, what do you think this team needs to improve on heading into the second half of the season?
Well, they've done some improvement already in the new year. I mean, they were giving up goals by the bushel, just something uncharacteristic of the Devils organization, and I don't look back and stereotype. I mean, our teams were special. We had a great defense. We had a great goaltender. The Devils have a great goaltender now, and Corey Schneider has started the new year like the Corey Schneider of old. He's had a tough year for an elite goaltender, and he knows that. He's hard on himself. He's a guy that he knows the Devils, his teammates rely on him to be a top guy, and it's been an up and down year for him. Well, he looked like the old Corey lately, so Corey's going to have to be one of the best goaltenders in the league for the Devils to compete. He's been that the last couple of games, only giving up 1 goal in the defense. Has just paid attention to detail. They've been more structured. That includes the forwards coming back and being a 5-man unit in their defensive zone, and that was something that was just missing for the last 6 weeks, where there was just too many gaping holes and missed assignments and guys not picking up guys going to the net and not boxing out and all those little things, Zach, that help you win hockey games. And they were very structured and played hard, and they got to play that way to compete. If they do, they can beat anybody on any given night. No, it doesn't guarantee you wins, but you give yourself a chance, because even against teams like Pittsburgh and Washington, if you don't play that way, the margin for error is minimal. They're going to beat you up like the Penguins did back-to-back during just before the new year against the Devils. If the Devils don't play that kind of structured game with the skill level they have, top teams like the Washington and Pittsburgh still a step ahead as far as, star players, the Ovechkins and Malkins and Crosbys, but you play the way the Devils did the last couple of nights, sound defensively, and, counterattack and get enough goals to win, you can beat anybody every given night. And I think that's where they've improved right now. I think they have more offensive talent. It hasn't shown consistently enough this season as far as the offensive output, but it starts from the back end. And top guys like Palmieri, Henrique, Taylor Hall, Camilleri, they got to lead these guys. They got to produce, and you see that happening. These first two games, the top players have scored the crucial goals, clutch goals. So we shall see, but I think they're in the right direction for sure.
Wrapping up with Ken Daneyko, who joins us right now on the Zach Gelb Show, Fox Sports 920 The Jersey. I was at the Flyers-Ranger game last night in South Philadelphia. The Rangers have surprised me a bit this year. I didn't think they'd be this good sitting at the halfway point for them. What do you see in this Rangers team, Ken?
Yeah, you know what? I got to agree with you, Zach. Going into September, and we all look at rosters from top to bottom, and I think a lot of the experts, media, including myself, thought they might take a little bit of a step back. Thought their back end was questionable. Still think at times they maybe need another piece there. Having said that, when you look at their lineup now, and I go over it, I go, boy, I understand why they're as good as they are, because up front they're deep. They're deeper than I anticipated, and it's no different than any team. Look at Columbus last year. Could get out of their own way. They were supposed to be a good team, but a lot of their top guys had down years collectively. Well, a lot of the Rangers' top guys are having good years collectively, and they're scoring goals right and left, especially early in the season. I know they went in a little rut. That's going to happen in an 82-game schedule. But when you got the likes of Kreider and Hayes and Nash, even though he's injured, and Zuccarello and all these great offensive players, and the Hayeses and Kreiders are big, strong guys to contain, they're going to be a tough team to beat, and I think that's what's been good. And if you think about it, they've done this without their top guy, their number one goaltender, not being at his best, and you very rarely win without your goaltender being at his best. So if he plays like he did last night and the way he's capable of, they're probably only going to get better because of the offensive weapons they have. And they're just, like I said, a deep offensive team that have a tough night against Buffalo. They said they didn't compete. They didn't come to play. That's what most coaches say. That's what the Devils will preach when we don't win is, well, the compete level is down. And you'll hear it from every coach and players. They do that against Buffalo, then they go right into Philadelphia and bounce back. Good teams do that. And the Rangers are a team to be reckoned with for sure. They're solid top to bottom right now, and it's going to be interesting down the stretch here how far they can go and can they compete. I still think, or compete for the Eastern Conference, I still think until somebody beats them, the defending Stanley Cup champ Pittsburgh Penguins, I would give the edge over anybody, even the mighty Columbus Blue Jackets right now. But I think the Blue Jackets are for real too, because they're awfully deep and have a great goaltender and a back end that can skate and is mobile.
Getting back to Dr. John McMullen, as tomorrow is going to be his night, as they're going to honor his family, and that's going to be a fun night in New Jersey, as they're going to put him as the inaugural member of the Devils Ring of Honor. John was a big baseball fan, you know that, just like yourself. He was confidants with Yogi Berra and George Steinbrenner and brought Nolan Ryan to Texas. Did you guys ever chat some baseball? Because I know you're a big baseball fan as well.
Oh, yeah. That was a great thrill. I mean, obviously he owned the Houston Astros before us, and I was a Paul Barrow at his funeral, which I was honored to be in 2005 when he passed. And just to tell a little story, Zach, about what players thought of Dr. McMullen, Craig Biggio and Jeff Bagwell, the great Houston Astro players retired now, were also Paul Barrows, and they flew in from Pittsburgh, had a game that night. They came to the funeral and were Paul Barrows just to show their respect and what Dr. McMullen meant to them as well. And, you don't hear about that all the time, and he was just a guy that his players loved, and the way he treated them. So that's something that's very special. And Dr. Mullins, again, everything he accomplished here in New Jersey to bring the Devils here, to bring championship teams, we're proud of that. And I think it's so important for that legacy. He's a guy that we all loved. Every player to a T is going to tell you that spent any time with him and been around. So tomorrow's going to be very special. I mean, gosh, I'll tell you one last story with me is how many guys he loved dogs and he loved baseball. And going back, sorry, I lost my train of thought, Zach. Going back, I took batting practice with the Houston Astros when they came to Shea Stadium. So that was obviously a great thrill for me back in, I guess, the early 90s. It was, and that's when I got to meet Bagwells and Biggios and Ken Caminetti's, and I'm a big baseball guy. I absolutely grew up playing, so that was a great thrill. Always around Yogi. Yogi was in the dressing room. He was like a mascot for us and a good luck charm, as those two guys worked out every single morning. Imagine coming to your dressing room and seeing the legendary Yogi Berra and Dr. Mack and his friends, like clockwork with their bagels. They do a little workout on the treadmill, and so we saw those guys every single morning. But that's how close-knit he was to the team, to his players. He was there every morning. He cared. He loved his team, and always said hi. He was such a humble man, and so, but to be part of that, and get to hang out with Yogi. I loved Yogi. What a great man he was as well. But that was a lot of fun. And a quick story, if we got time, is to explain what he meant to me and the relationship we had. I'd mentioned he loved his dogs. He always had dogs. They were so disciplined labs, and they'd come. He had one in particular, Bubba, that would walk right by his side. And I'd always mention, I just had a daughter, and my daughter, I think, was 3 years old at the time. I always mentioned, geez, I'd like to get a dog for my daughter, Doc. And I forgot about it. A couple weeks go by, a couple months go by, and I said, your dog's so disciplined, back when I was talking to him. Where do you find one of those? So a couple weeks or months go by. He says, meet me at, a couple months later, right before Christmas, meet me at Teterboro Airport. Bring your daughter along. And I didn't even remember the dog thing or asked him, what the heck's he want us to go to Teterboro Airport? Well, we get to the airport. He says, hop on the plane. We're going to Corpus Christi, Texas. So I had to call my wife at the time and say, we won't be back till about midnight. I'm getting on a plane to Corpus Christi, Texas. We're going to get your daughter a dog. I mean, this is what kind of does. He had his private jet to get me and my daughter a dog. The dog, we had the pick of the litter, a trained dog that got the Star Ledger in the morning for me. I mean, was that trained and that disciplined. And it was just a special, heartwarming thing. My daughter, who's 22 now, we talk about it today. But that was the kind of owners, that was the kind of relationship I felt very grateful to have with him. I mean, it was insane. Got on the plane, flew right back. The dog came right back sat right in on the plane, right in the middle of the floor, didn't budge, and we got home around midnight with a brand new dog that was trained better than my kids, myself, or any human being I've seen. So, but I mean, it's just the type of man he was, and very, very special to me. And tomorrow's going to be a very special night. I know I went on, but I could go on and on about Dr. Mack and stories and what kind of owner he was. And, but that right there tells you the relationship I felt very fortunate, blessed, and grateful to have with our first owner, the New Jersey Devils. And, I'm not afraid to say it. I love the man, and he taught me a lot about life, and I was always in my corner, and I'm forever indebted to him for that.
Well, Ken, we appreciate it. This was great stuff. Always love having you on the show, and have some fun tomorrow night. We appreciate it.
All right, Zach. Thanks for having me. Take care now.